Namaskar, hello, and welcome back to Vision Economics Academy, your one-stop solution to all economics problem. Today we'll continue with Indian economic development, chapter number 2, that is Indian economy from 1950 to 1990. In our previous episode, we had already covered till the 4 goals of 5-year plan. Today we'll continue the chapter. Introduction to agriculture in the post-independence India. So as we know, in the colonial period, agriculture suffered deeply. There was zamindari system or the land settlement system because of the intermediaries, because of their exploitation through the collection of lagan. They had suffered deeply because of outdated technology, because of zamindars not having any association with the land, and there was a lot of food shortages and there was a lot of problem that was faced during the colonial period. There was no equity in agriculture, so all this was there. And of course, after independence, there were still various problems in agriculture. Of course, जैसे अभी भी problem है. There are a lot of problems that agriculture faces in our country. The first of all was low productivity. Low productivity क्यों था? क्योंकि lack of modernization, lack of technology, right? So this sector was stagnant because of outdated practices. There was disguised unemployment. Too many people depended on agriculture. Agriculture was overburdened with human resources. Okay, more people were working than it was required, leading to disguised unemployment. Still high dependency on rainfall, as irrigations and other agricultural facilities were not developed. So we could see the problem even after the independence. Subsistence farming was there. The farmers produced only to the point that they could feed themselves for the self-consumption, and there was no surplus left for trade, right? So low surplus production leading to food shortages. Just imagine a country like India with such rich resources and agriculture dominated economy was having food shortages. Okay? So outdated technology we have already discussed, and manual and tedious farming practices were there, which led to low productivity, took time, and obviously lead to less productivity. There was, of course, the continuous tussle between the tenants and the landlords. Even though the Britishers had left, there were still intermediaries, there were still zamindars who had absolute control over the land. And because of small holdings, land holdings, lands were fragmented. It was not, there was not a huge land at once, lands was fragmented. And because of this, it was difficult to introduce the mechanization or the, farming techniques, modern farming techniques. So policies that were brought forward for the growth of agriculture was, first of all, two major policies we can talk about is land reforms and green revolution, right? Land reforms was to abolish the intermediaries, that is the zamindars, which aim to give land to the actual tillers, not to the zamindars who had no association or emotional connection or had to do anything with the land, right? So the benefits of it would be the increase in investment, direct contact of the tenants with the government, and incentives for tenants to produce more through the way of subsidy, etc. Then challenges were there. Obviously, zamindars found the loopholes. They continued to retain the lands. Tenants were evicted even before the law was implemented, as zamindars were rich and affluent. They had all sort of connections, and some zamindars also falsely claimed to be the cultivators. The Land Ceiling Act, part of land reforms, fixing the land limit for the ownership of land, right? To prevent the land concentration only in one person, right? So the purpose was to redistribute the land among the actual tillers and promote equity in the agriculture. Now there was various challenges. Large landlords delayed the implementation of this policy. They transferred land in the name of the relatives, and this was known as the Benami lands, etc. So those were the loopholes that they had found. Green Revolution is probably one of the most important chapter uh, in terms of Indian agriculture. So the Green Revolution was introduced in the third five-year plan that was in 1960s to enhance agricultural production, to increase the productivity through technology, introduction of high-yielding variety of seeds. It was mainly focused on modern technology like HYVs, seeds, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and irrigation facilities, led by none other than M.S. Swaminathan in India. Remember this name. And influenced by Dr. Norman globally. Okay, so it was influenced by Dr. Norman and led by M.S. Swaminathan in India, and he's also known as father of the Green Revolution. So aim to increase the food grain production, particularly wheat and rice. This was the most staple food that Indians had. So before the Green Revolution, 75% of the Indian population dependent on agriculture, right? So there was various problems that was faced. The dependence on monsoon caused inconsistent yields of the crops, outdated technology, of course, poor infrastructure. All this led to the stagnation of agriculture, and there was an urgent need of some scientific advancements. Green revolutions and the futures use of high-yielding variety of seeds, mainly for wheat and rice. The chemical fertilizers was used extensively. The pesticides were used extensively. Irrigation facilities were extended, like canals were built, tube wells and dams were built over India. Mechanization, the introduction of tractors, modern equipments, other modern equipments. So the double cropping system, that is introducing the cultivation of two crops in a year so that the productivity increases. As we explore more about the origin of Green Revolution, in the Kharif season, 1966, India adopted high-yielding varieties program for the first time. So it was in 1966, during the Kharif season, that the HYV program was introduced for the first time. There was application of fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, etc. The new strategy was also known as modern Green Revolution. So in the year 1967-68, food grain production increased by nearly 28.8%. Just in a year, it increased the production just in a year of introduction of this modern technology called the Green Revolution. It increased the food production by about 29% just the next year. So this success was attributed to the new agriculture strategy, and India became self-sufficient in the production of food grains. So that was some positives. So main reasons that led to agricultural revolution was every policy needs to be well planned before implementation. So how did they plan? How did they plan out? First of all, the seeds were used in those places which had adequate facilities of drainage and water supply, because high-yielding variety of seeds needs a large amount of water and other facilities, modern infrastructure. So it was first introduced in those places which already had the support of it. Now, seeds needs a heavy dose of chemical fertilizers 4 to 10 times for maximum production. So more than about 4 to 10 times more than what they were using. So they need a lot of chemical fertilizers to derive maximum productivity from the HYV. Farmers needed reliable irrigation facilities and financial resources as well to purchase various things like pesticides and fertilizers, right? So the Green Revolution in India was introduced in various phases. Phase 1, that is from mid 1960s to mid 1970s. The seeds were introduced only in the affluent states like Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. Benefits were only limited to wheat production. In the second phase, the technology spread to other states, included rice and other crops. So first was mainly focused on wheat production, and then in the second phase was also introduced to rice production and also transferred to other states as well. More regions benefited, leading to increasing agricultural diversity, right? So the many benefits of Green Revolution. First of all, the food productivity increased. We had subsistence farming, but now as the food production had increased, we had marketable surplus so that we could even sell the excess. Buffer stock, so government had a buffer stock now. They could maintain the buffer stocks to maintain the food security of the country. The price of the food lowered as the supply increased, and agriculture modernized because of the use of machinery, better irrigation facilities, and scientific farming methods. So there was various benefits as well as the challenges of the Green Revolution, and there was risks involved. Every coin has two sides. Okay, so one of the main challenges was the pest attacks. HYV crops were more prone to pests and diseases. So it also led to income inequality. Some of them also suggest that Green Revolution, however, led to income inequality because this type of modern farming and technology could be afforded only by the rich farmers, and the rich farmers got richer and richer, and the poor got poorer and poorer, right? And even the reason why is there was disparity. Small farmers faced difficulties. Obviously, they could not buy HYV seeds and use the fertilizers in abundance, right? Then there was certain environmental concern also because lack of overusing of the chemical and fertilizers and pesticides would lead to soil degradation and of course to water pollution. So there was environmental concern for it as well. There was excessive irrigation which led to waterlogging and salinity in the water. So these were the problems that was faced, or the risks that was involved in the Green Revolution. Moving on to government intervention. What did government do? Government introduced subsidized inputs. So they provided loans at low interest rates to small farmers to support them. To support the farmers, MSP, the minimum support price, was also introduced, where the farmers were ensured of fair prices for their products. And irrigation projects, various irrigation projects like development of dams, canals, and tube wells were also done. Right? So there has been numerous debate based on subsidies. There are some scholars who are in the who believe that the agriculture needs subsidy, and there are various scholars at the same time who says that the subsidy is not good for agriculture, right? So let us see the various arguments that is in favor of subsidies. Some scholars says that it will help poor farmers and they can afford HYV seeds and fertilizers. It will also reduce the risk of adopting new technology because it may fail, it may succeed, we don't know. So it also reduces the risks associated with the new technological input, and eliminating subsidies will increase the income inequality between the rich and the poor farmers, which violate the ultimate goal of equity that was under the planning commission. So these were various arguments that was put forward in favor of the subsidies. There are many economists as well and scholars who say that subsidies were not totally good. They said that it had unequal benefits. It did not reach the intended target. It did not reach the poor farmers. Rather, it was again exploited and taken by the rich farmers only. Large farmers and fertilizer industries benefited more rather than the small farmers from the subsidies. So it led also to the fiscal burden. So country would be in debt. The government would be in strain to give such subsidy, right? It's a great burden on the finances of the government. So some economists argue that subsidies should be phased out after their purpose is served. So we'll continue to discuss this chapter in the next episode. Till then, be safe, study well, and this is Shivankar Chetri, and the Vision Economics is signing off. Thank you.